Round one in the books. The Sharks and some of our colleagues here get their guy and some interesting picks along the road. We'll break down the entire first round right now. This is Teal Town Live. Good evening, everyone. It is Friday night, July 23rd, 2021. Yeah, you might want to turn off the opening ceremony because we have some hockey prospects to talk about. All right, welcome to Teal Town Live. This is your live interactive post round one draft show. So to be part of the show, chat with us and fellow hockey fans across the world on the page or the app. And of course, follow us on the social Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Reddit, Discord after the show, and find everything at tealtownusa.com. And with that, I say good evening, everyone. You're not just stuck with only me. You got two experts who know this draft better than I do. I am joined by Ian Reed.
Hello, hello.
Hello. And joining us from New York, Mark Eisenberg. What's happening, bud?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good, especially after we, as Kevin was saying, we got our guy earlier. We'll get into William Eklund and the Sharks pick in just a jiffy, but I'll start with the overall consensus. Number one pick, Owen Power to Buffalo. Mark, what did you think? You expect? He kind of winked as like, I might go back to college this year. Maybe you don't want to grab me.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people knew he was going number one, at least for the last couple months. Michigan, they're going to be stacked next year. So him going back there, they're going to have to try and find minutes for all these players.
Yeah, all right.
It's crazy.
Ian, for you, any surprises, especially in the top five, where, speaking of Michigan, 3 of the top 5 come from the Wolverines?
Yeah, I was surprised that Kent Johnson went as high as he did. Personally, I thought he went a little higher than I thought he was going to go. I thought he would probably round out the top 10, but good player nonetheless. It's going to be interesting, right? Because like a lot of these guys, like you just talked about how like Owen Powers, like said, he's going back to college. And I think a lot of these guys, I think that's going to be like the theme of the first round. I don't think a lot of these guys are going to play in the NHL next year. It's just one of those drafts. And I don't think that's a problem. I don't think that should get anybody worried or anything. But I think that, Owen Power going back to Michigan is going to be kind of the theme of this draft. A lot of guys probably not making the jump this year, regardless of how bad the team might need the boost, and that's fine.
Gotcha. I think when I was doing the live reaction, it was like, okay, Owen Power, number one, cool. Ben Years, which I keep wanting to say Bernier's. For some reason, I think it's just because of Steve Bernier. But Mason McTavish, a little of a surprise at number 3. And with these OHL guys, I think because they didn't get to have a season, and in general, actually, because of the scouting that had to take, all over the place, virtually. This is a little bit of a crapshoot, isn't it?
Yeah, I definitely think McTavish went a little early, but at the same time, there were some people putting him pretty high on their list because the NHL's fascination with centers. So, yeah, and he's a big center, and he's one of the few guys who's listed as a center and actually projects as a center. So, the Ducks taking him, a little bit surprising. I definitely wouldn't have taken him at 3, but you never know. He could be their center of the future.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if he's a center in the NHL. What I want to see though is if he gets to their farm team sooner than later, and one Ryan Merkley's still there. I want to see that interaction on the ice because they did not get along in Peterborough.
awkward. As we moved along, to number 6, I was like, this is where I think a lot of the chat were saying, okay, this is where Eklund's going to go. And then came, why can't I think of his name right now?
Edmondson.
Thank you. Evan. See, I can't even say it. Forgive me. I hear Kevin being cursed. But I was like, okay, here we go. This is a lock, and guys, William Eklund. I know Ian, you were super high on him.
Yeah.
He was your guy that, essentially your guy that you thought number 1 overall, but also,
not number 1 overall, but he was like number 1. Like on my wish list of guys that you take at 7, he was on top. My list, for those wondering, I had Eklund, Clark, Gunther, which actually all got drafted in that order,
right.
And then I had Wallstead, and then I had Johnson, and then Lysell was my board. But yeah, like William Eklund. Like a lot of people are really excited to see what Jonathan Dahlen does this year, right? Because he put up a ton of points in the Allsvenskan. But William Eklund put up a ton of points in the SHL as a 17-year-old, which is ungodly. Like, it was some of the players that are coming from the SHL this year are going to be really, really good. And Wallstead's another guy who really did just amazing things in the top tier league in the Swedish league. And in my opinion, I mean, the tier of leagues, NHL, KHL, SHL, like those are the 3 leagues, top 3 leagues in the world. So to do what Eklund did in the SHL as a 17-year-old, I mean, that's exciting. I don't know how you can't be excited for that.
Mark, what's your take on William Eklund as I pull up some info from NHL stats here for the 5'10", 176-pounder from Sweden?
He was definitely number 1 of realistic picks for me. I actually had him as number 2 in my draft preview, right behind Powers, and a Power just because of the fact that I knew Power was going number 1. But I think Eklund's actually the most talented player in the draft. I thought there was a chance of him going as high as number 2 based on a lot of the conversations I had seen recently, and his stock has been skyrocketing over the last month or so. But I think he just is an extreme talent, and as was just mentioned, like he just dominated in one of the best leagues in the world for someone his age. 2 names that come to mind were guys who were drafted last year, Lucas Raymond and Alexander Holtz, and he outscored both of them. Both of those guys were top 10 picks in a stronger draft last year, and they've got I think it's 8 or 9 months on him. So just an absolutely fantastic year for a draft eligible player. And while I hope he stays in Europe for another season, I think he's probably one of the more NHL ready players actually in this draft. But I think he definitely needs another year in Sweden.
Yeah, and I think, some people will probably knock his size, but I think if you look at guys like, and I'm not saying I don't like the NHL comparable game, but I'm just saying, like, if you look at his size and you get worried, like I would point out guys like Alex DeBrincat and Cole Caulfield, like, are showing that small guys can absolutely thrive in this league now.
So both of you would project that they would go back to Sweden for next season, or could he like shine at camp to maybe steal a spot?
I don't think so. I think the Sharks aren't in a rush. Like I don't think you need to rush him over. Like I let him play in Europe another year and then probably bring him over. He's gonna get a better experience playing in the SHL than in the AHL. Like you'd be dropping him. Like obviously it's a different style of game, and I will concede that point. But I don't think you need to do that this year. Again, like we don't need to rush him over here. We don't want another Mirko Mueller. Like let him do his thing. Let him come over when it's time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And the only thing that concerns me, and I'm sure it was just joking around, but if you saw that little video of Doug Wilson Jr. giving him the call. And Wilson was right next to him, and Wilson, GM Wilson, Papa Wilson, he's saying, I heard you're ready. And I was like, no,
Oh boy.
No, please, no, don't rush him.
Yeah, that kind of got me. It's like, oh, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, another year, won't be a problem. And then if he's not ready, he'll be ready to open up the new rink with the CUDA, I guess. And you guys were really high on him. Number 8 for LA, was Brant Clark. And
yeah, that makes me sad.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I'm glad we got Eklund. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm glad that we took Eklund, but Brant Clark, another guy. There's some question marks on his skating, but he's another guy who played in Europe, not obviously in the SHL, but he was still playing. He was still playing in a men's league, and I thought he acquitted himself very well there. I think that if you look at LA, probably one of their holes to get into, to really take that next step forwards, probably on the blue line a little bit. So it's a great pick for them. I don't like it as a Sharks fan, but if you're a Kings fan, I think you should be really happy with that pick.
We won't be regretting, taking someone over another person, right?
I mean, time will tell, but right now, the Sharks got the guy they should have got at that pick. Based on the guys that were on the board, the Sharks made the right pick, in my opinion, and I hope time will bear that out.
Yeah, and it's going to be a good one, I think, in a very, very long time. I thought he was one of the guys. You guys were raving about him and looking up his stats and looking, everything. It's like, okay, I can go with this. There were some comments from Doug Wilson and Doug Wilson Jr. On the post-draft call. Wilson Jr. saying Eklund is a very mature, has speed, possession, everything we look for, and he fits great in our culture. I'm very excited to have him as a Shark. To have DW say he's a coach's dream. But one of the interesting comments that came out is that they had Beniers number 1 on their board. With Eklund number 2. Obviously, I mean, Beniers is a nice talent, but I mean, I think for Eklund, who was the number 1 European skater according to Central Scouting, was pretty awesome and almost on even par, I would think, with Beniers.
Mark said it best earlier, right? Like, Beniers is a big talent. Like, he's a talented guy. I mean, a lot of people had Eklund really high on their boards. Like, if you go through and you look at some of the rankings from like some of the scouting services and stuff, like, a lot of people were really high on Eklund. And again, it was kind of like after the 3rd pick, like, he was like, oh, it's start time. Because again, like, this draft could have gone any number of ways. Like, I really wanted Eklund, but I wasn't sold coming into today that he was going to be still on the board. And then when he was there, I mean, I just held my breath because I'm like, God, the Sharks, don't do this to me. Do not do the Sharks with this pick. Like, the right pick is right there. Don't screw this up. I mean, and there's guys that they could have taken over Eklund, and I would have been upset, but I would still be okay with, right? Like, if they would have took some of the guys that went after Eklund, I'd be disappointed, but I wouldn't be like completely livid. But I'm not shocked that Eklund was that high on the Sharks board, because again, like Mark said, he was high on a lot of people's boards.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think also with that, the difference between him and Beniers is just that I think Eklund has a higher ceiling, but Beniers, I think, is more of a guy that a team, especially like Seattle, who's starting to look for their guy, he's going to fit perfectly onto that second line or above. Like, it's almost, I'd say, a guarantee with his work ethic and his talent. that guy's definitely going to be on the second line and possibly even first line in the future. So it's 2 through 8 or 2 through 7 could have gone a lot of different ways. And that's why there was a million different mock drafts with totally different orders, which is weird compared to most years. But I was also shocked that Eklund dropped. I think actually earlier today I tweeted that he was no longer even on my list because there's just so much talk about him going in the top 5.
Right.
That I was just like, now I was like, okay, well, let me focus on Gunther, Johnson, and say Hughes if Hughes dropped past New Jersey. Right. So, yeah, it was tough, and I was just shocked to see him there at 7. It's exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought Eklund was either going to Anaheim or maybe Columbus because we all knew that.
I didn't think he'd make it past Detroit.
Yeah, they love their Swedes, and they chose another one. But him in particular, I was like, he is definitely going to Detroit if he makes 6.
Yeah, I thought for sure he was either in Anaheim or Columbus because we all knew that Luke Hughes was going to go to New Jersey. I think there was a lot of expectations there, and boy howdy did Jack get excited that he's got his brother coming to play with him.
Got very excited.
Right?
Yeah.
But Ian, got to give you kudos to you for going Eklund, Clark, and Gunther 7 through 9. Should get more kudos for that. Curtis Pashelka, if you're watching, give him the shout out. Take that, Kevin Lacey. Were you surprised? I'm not surprised Arizona tried to get back into the first round, but with that trade today that sent Ekman Larson and Connor Garland over to Vancouver for basically a cap dump with Jay Beagle and Louis Eriksson along with the number 9 pick. I mean,
I think Arizona's actually doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, Arizona had a really good day.
Yeah, and if you look at what they've kind of done now and stocked up, they have, I think it's 8 second-round picks in the next 2 years. They have a first-rounder this year that they just used on Gunther, who I still think is going to be a very good player. If we couldn't get Eklund, he was one of the guys I wanted.
Yeah.
And then they have they have their own first-rounder next year, but 8 second-rounders. They can trade 2 of those, get into the first round, and still have even, still 5-6 more second-rounders. They're doing well for just basically doing what some other franchises should do. I'm not going to necessarily say the Sharks, but they're pretty much admitting they suck, and they're finding a way to get better. And that a lot of times is via the draft.
Yeah, a great bit of business for the Coyotes today. I don't hate it for Vancouver either. I mean, they moved a lot of cap space out.
Right.
So I don't hate it for them, but I'm not as high on their side of the deal as I am on the Coyotes. I think that Ekman Larson contract is scary.
Yeah, and it clears up some space that they were going to need for Quinn Hughes and Pettersson in the very near future. So that they get out of all that. So, oh boy. Guys, let's confirm this here. Skylar with the Super Chat donation. Thank you very much. Reinhardt to Florida via Elliot Freeman.
Curious to see what the full deal is.
Yes. And because we finally have a trade to announce, I have to finally use it.
We have a trade to announce.
Thank you, Kevin Lacey Bettman, on there. But Skylar, thank you very much for the Super Chat donation. Of course, for those watching on YouTube, if you would like to donate via Super Chat, we will read those on the air, and the proceeds go back to one, help us out, and also help essentially Google open up the Googleplex around the Shark Tank. So that's it. Kevin Lacey saying that is confirmed. So we have.
I see everyone confirming it, but no idea what the trade is.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we'll wait on that. We'll keep that on there just yet, and keep that in check. So Elliot Friedman, if you're watching, thank you, and please tell us when it happens, when we know the confirmation of that. So, all right, and Skylar, thank you for bringing that to us. Appreciate that immensely. Of course. Going to 10. Tyler Boucher, Brian Boucher's son, gets selected by the Ottawa Senators, which begs me the question, guys: did former NBC analyst Pierre McGuire wink, wink at former NBC analyst Brian Boucher as to, hey, you might want to take this guy in the first round?
That's a brutal pick.
Yeah,
like
such a reach.
When it's funny because and I hate the comparable game, right? Like I feel like a comparable's easy to do, but I find some guys you'll get 6 different completely different guys for an NHL comparable, but when the comparable that comes out is this is Tom Wilson with a little more skill,
oh boy,
that's yikes.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he was projected by most people to go in the second round, and then to take him at 10, especially with some of the other names that were still available. Ooh, that was rough. That's actually what I was worried about the Sharks doing.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was terrified. I was like, okay,
Sharks
don't ruin this.
That's a typical Sharks move.
Yep.
You trade up to number 8 to get Devin Setoguchi when Anze Kopitar is right there. Yeah. Of course.
Or Mirko Mueller when Anthony Manta's sitting right there, too.
Oh, God.
Sorry to remind you.
No. I mean, we could go all the way back to Pat Falloon and we passed up on Scott Niedermayer, but that's another show for another time. Of course, the Coyotes had their own first-round pick voided because of some shenaniganery.
It is combine tampering or something along those lines.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Don't make your own combine, people.
Right.
Columbus with their second pick in the first round, Cole Sillinger from the U.S. National Development Team. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, from the USHL from Sioux Falls. My apologies for that, and to the Sillinger family for that. Coronado to Calgary, Isaac Rosen to Buffalo. Guys, from 14 to 20, were there any surprises for you?
Well, we got the goalie conversation. Kosa going before Wallstead. It's great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that because all year long, Wallstead was definitely the go-to goalie. And then Kosa kind of in the last couple of months, I feel like he creeped more into the conversation and people started actually saying he could get drafted before Wallstead. And, I mean, Yzerman, he likes the big goalies, so he gets Kosa.
Yeah, I mean, it intrigues me, right? Because I thought that Wallstead was probably the better goalie. I think with Kosa, I always get nervous when goalies are big because there's a certain element of size worship that is going into goaltending right now, where it's like if you're not 6'6", you're not a goalie.
Oh, God.
But I mean, this is the guy that drafted Vasilevsky, so it's hard to go against Yzerman. I didn't like the trade that he did earlier with the Islanders, but this might turn out to be a good piece of work. It's going to be interesting to see after he traded up to get in there, because I thought for sure, they're going to get Wallstead now, but going Kosa, it's an interesting pick, and I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, Kosa is 6'6", the same height that Aiden Hill is, so that's going to be an interesting one to see, along with Nelikovich, just picked up from Carolina just the other day ago. So, moving onward as we go deeper into the later round or later picks, but like you guys said, Jesper Wallstedt drops down to 20th. Some people were mentioning that maybe the Sharks go after a goaltender at 7. Obviously Eklund's the better choice. But for Minnesota though, who didn't lose Kakinen in the expansion draft, who has Cam Talbot, and yes, goaltenders tend to take time to develop, but for the 20-year-old from Sweden, I mean,
I think it's great, because I think Kakinen's. I like Kakinen a lot, but I don't know what his ceiling projects to be. And the thing with Wallstedt is again, you're another guy who you're not bringing over right now. I'd let Wallstedt play another year over in the SHL, And then I think maybe the year after, that's when you get him over, because then you obviously want to get him in the AHL. You got to start getting him used to the angles on the North American ice surface. But he's not, again, you don't need to rush a guy over, and then they'll know what they have in Kokkonen. And then if they're really happy with what they have in Kokkonen, then they have this big blue chip trade piece, right? Or they can trade Kokkonen and go with like Wallstedt. It's great for Minnesota, who has done some very questionable things in the last couple of weeks.
So, Bill Guerin making splashes and getting a goaltender, little heat on in the organization down the road, of course. In the later rounds, except for we weren't going to touch 31 just yet, but Chase Stillman 29 to New Jersey, where we thought maybe this is the pick that could, we heard rumors that Kevin Weeks had mentioned, hey, watch out for Sharks and Devils, whether it was a 4 or if it was at 29. Anything that sticks out here. Of course, Chase Stillman, New Jersey took, Corey Stillman's son in this one here. But guys, anything from like 21 to 29 or 21 to 30?
I'm not sad like that the Sharks didn't make that move, because the piece going the other way, at least it was rumored to be Timo Meier, and I know a lot of people are really sour on Timo Meier. I'm not throw him overboard sour on him yet. Like, I think, yeah, does he need to have like a serious bounce back season next year? Absolutely. I'll be the first to say that, but I'm not throw him overboard sour with Timo Meier at this point.
Yeah, and I agree. I would have been okay, I think, with Timo Meier being traded for the 4th pick. That I would have been, I think that would have been fair value. But for 29th, no, not in this draft. This draft's not strong enough for the 29th pick to be worth a guy who, despite his downward trend in the last couple seasons, still has a 30-goal season under his belt, 60 points,
right?
Former top 10 pick in a very strong draft, which I know really doesn't matter anymore. But yeah, Timo Meier is, if you're trading him, you're getting top 10 pick or you're getting really strong pieces.
Right. Yeah, and if it was 29 for Meier, that's a little controversial. Well, maybe more than little, but I mean, goodness gracious, yeah. I was kind of expecting something there from Doug Wilson, but granted, he doesn't have a second round pick. It's tough to move up just the scotch like it usually is, or to have the extra picks to move up in there. So to recap, 21 through 30, Fabian Lysell from Sweden goes to Boston. Xavier Bourgeol to Edmonton. Did I get that right again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's Bourgeau, something like that. Yeah.
Come on. I'm always trying to impress with the pronunciations. That's all. Wyatt Johnson to Dallas. That
was an interesting pick.
Yeah, I remember you were mentioning about that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to get drafted tomorrow that haven't played a whole lot of games in the last season, right? And that's just a product of the situation. Now, is that a bad thing? No, because I mean, these guys played hockey games before the last year, obviously. So scouts do have something to go off of. Obviously, you want to see how players progress as they get to their draft year and then beyond their draft year. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I think there's going to be players in this draft year that are going to surprise based on where they're taken, just because of the lack of eyes on things that they did this year. There's going to be, I think this is going to be one of those weird drafts where we're going to look back and go, wow, that was a steal. How did that happen? And then we'll remember COVID.
Right. Zachary Laheroux, who was, he got suspended 4 times, apparently, in between Halifax and Moncton.
I think it was funny. I tweeted this out like on that one. It was like, because you always hear about character issues. This guy's falling because character issues. Guy gets suspended 4 times. This guy's awesome. Okay.
It's literally who you talk to about that. Oscar Olofsson from Colorado and then of course we mentioned Chase Stillman, Zachary Dean from Gatineau goes to the Vegas Golden Knights. And then
it's an interesting pick for the Golden Knights. I think again, probably a player you wanted to see more from. The Q did get to play this year, but again, like this draft, especially this draft in particular, like this late first round is not good.
Yeah.
So I think I think some guys are gonna take flyers on guys, but I think Zach Dean, from what little I've seen of him, he's a decent player, and the Golden Knights might find something there.
All right. Nolan Allen at 32, and then back at 31, the very controversial pick of Logan Melou, who basically tried to take himself out of the draft because of controversial issues that he caused himself, to say the least. Which, the fuck you thinking, dude?
I was surprised they made that pick. I honestly, I didn't think he was going to get drafted at all, but then I had to do like a double take when I saw that. I was like, are you kidding me? In the first round, Montreal just took this guy. How is this possible with all the news going around with him right now? I don't understand.
And it's really awful because Mark Bergevin was, of course, in the front office of Chicago, where all these allegations are.
Geez,
he was in the front
Yes.
office, right? So it's just it looks terrible on so many fronts. And am I shocked he got drafted? No, I figured he would get drafted by someone. It wouldn't, but in the first round, that's wild. I don't think Montreal picks again until 61, so maybe they thought that he wasn't going to be there when they picked again, but man, best sport, worst league.
Yeah, it just doesn't help things out. And in fact, on the call, as the draft was continuing, when asked about the Melou pick, Wilson said no comment. Yikes.
Yeah.
So, but one thing AJ didn't mention about this as we kind of went through the first round, how are we feeling about the Sharks drafting since DW Jr. took the reins?
So far, so good.
Yeah. You look at those last few drafts, and I think he's doing what Sharks fans wanted us to do for a while, because we used to take a lot of those like safe guys or the players who you knew were guaranteed at least a third liner but didn't have first line upside, whereas now you look at the last few drafts and we're getting quality without having top picks, and now that we got a top pick, we just got the most talented player in the draft. So I'm officially on board with the Doug Wilson Jr. train, and I will not hear any of those conversations about nepotism or any of that.
Yeah, I want to echo that entirely. I mean, it obviously, like, we're gonna start seeing pretty soon, because a lot of these players from the earlier Doug Wilson Jr. drafts are gonna need to make the jump. But I mean, I've been more excited about the drafts under Doug Wilson Jr. than I have been in a long time as a Sharks fan.
Yeah.
Like, there's always like I still think there's like, the Sharks have always done good with like the late round gems and stuff, but like just completely like missing in the higher rounds. And so far so good.
Yeah. I like it. Merkley, we haven't seen him just yet, but hopefully he makes his debut in the fairly near future. Ozzy looks like he could be a gem, and like I said earlier, he's already working on work, or I should say, he's working out in San Jose. So he's definitely trying.
Weisblatt, there's Tristan Robbins, who I'm really high on.
Bordeleau
Obviously, it goes without saying. It's like I said, it's just obviously, we're going to see what happens when these players have to make the jump, but there's some really exciting players in the system, not in in the system, but we just need to get them over into the actual system and start seeing how they perform.
Right. Don't ruin the summer. I mean, yeah, that'd be great to see. I see, and looking in the chat, everybody's like a tiger saying "Borderlo, baby, Borderlo." Dino Bottrex. The Eklund pick is incredibly exciting. I'm sad we didn't try to get Wallstedt though. A faulty synapse. I'm in favor of his picks thus far.
I think, but it's like you said, it's hard to get up in that first, like, especially in the first round. If you wanted to get up into like that 10 to 20 range where you'd probably want to go to try and take Wallstedt, it's hard to do that without a second.
Yeah. So we shall see what happens tomorrow. Rounds 2 through 7 will begin at 8 a.m. on the Pacific Coast and 11 a.m. on the East. That'll be on NHL Network down here in the U.S. I believe it's on Sportsnet up in beautiful Canada. So should be interesting on that. We will have a recap of all the Sharks picks from the entire draft tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that one. So with that, in case you missed anything or you want to watch this again, check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Hit that subscribe button to our YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate that. Also check us out on SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and of course always available at tealtownusa.com. So with that, we will wrap things up for tonight, thankfully. But another long tray and longer, easy for me to say, another long day tomorrow. So check us out on the YouTube channel and on our social media. We appreciate it. So last words for you, Mark. Good to see you again. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's great to see you guys. That was the happiest I've been at a Sharks draft. I literally yelled out loud as if we scored a Game 7 goal in overtime to beat Vegas. And so that was a great moment. I got a few good names still for the second round. Unfortunately, we don't have a pick in the second round, so we'll see if Dougie makes any moves tomorrow.
Right.
But there's some guys, like we were talking about Brandt. There's some other Brandt Clark. There's some other good offensive defensemen still available. There's also Atu Ratu, who's just been plummeting over the last year. But he was originally supposed to go possibly number 1 overall this time last year, and he's still available. Big center. So we'll see what happens. It could be interesting tomorrow. I'll be tuning in, and hopefully the Sharks make some moves to get up there.
Yeah, there's a couple of names that I was surprised that didn't go already. I think Pastajov's another one. Yeah. Atu Ratu's I thought for sure would be in the first round, and there's definitely players that got taken in the first round that I would have taken Atu Ratu over for sure. So I'm curious to see how far that slide continues tomorrow. My final thoughts, of course, you can find me at Ian Blogs Hockey on the Twitter machine. I had an awful day, but you guys were there to pick me up, and I super appreciate it. And then the Sharks didn't let me down. I had my angry Paddington picture all ready to go. And they, I didn't have to use it. And maybe I should have used what Montreal picked.
Oh, no.
Wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
So I, didn't have to use the angry Paddington picture, and anytime I don't have to use the angry Paddington picture, that is a good day.
That's very true. Ian, I'll be honest, I didn't see your tweet right away, so my condolences to you, my friend. We love you, bud, and we're glad we're able to distract you a little bit with this draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. So with that, we will get out of here. Tomorrow we will recap the Sharks draft picks, and for everything Sharks-wise and NHL draft-wise, keep it right here on Teal Town USA, right here on the YouTube channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and of course hit that notification bell as well, so you get notified when we go live, whenever anything happens, especially if something breaks, for sure. So for Mark, Ian, and myself, thanks for watching, and until tomorrow, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, of course it doesn't want to work.